Cool, I'm back. Okay, sorry, that took me a minute.
No, I think it was funny, like as if we were shot into space and then we came.
We were really
So
the cord on us.
I guess I was thinking of all these people telling you what to do. and then I have the nerve to say, well, I wouldn't do that. And then I shoot you into orbit.
No, it's fine when people have ideas. It's just,
I know, it's just funny.
it's funny. Funny.
I can't even, I know, I guess I was telling you about Breonna Taylor Square. So, but I'm really excited to hear about that Hey White Lady group.
Yeah, Hey White Ladies. And they had me as a guest one time and it was really nice.
Okay.
They're just, they read together and they talk to each other and they practice. I mean, they put it in their lives, they apply it, and they're dismantling themselves. So
right, that's a little seed there. Yeah, that's I've wanted to do that with kids. I've been thinking about in the fall, once things get rolling with all this other stuff, could there be a Not My Idea book club, because there's a lot of faith-based spaces here in Louisville that work with adults around whiteness, and they do a lot of really good work and they do book studies, but to my knowledge, even the Surge group here doesn't have a children's component to it, and that's of great interest to me.
And why wouldn't I do that? Why wouldn't I say, hey y'all, I'm starting a Zoom, a virtual Not My Idea band book club with kids, and we're gonna whatever, I can organize it however we're gonna do one page every time we get together, just one page. We're gonna look at it, we're gonna talk about all the things that come up.
Right. And there's so much legislation now around the country, including here in Kentucky, that people are talking about, that has to do with just the books.
It's so interesting too. I mean, it drives me a little bit crazy if I let it, or I start to I have to consciously talk myself down to stay calm, because so much of what they're trying to legislate and so much of what this the volume getting turned up, the heat getting turned up under racialization and just the in every direction, abortion, trans, gay, and any critique of structural racism, any exposure of that, disability rights, eugenics, of letting people just suffer from COVID, the health, all the things at the same time, and these this idea that we can't let people, like, we can commit terrible harm and we can mistreat people, but we can't let people feel bad. Like there was this legislation of, like, you can't read a book to a child, you can't talk about something that's going to make the kids feel bad. And the Ordinary Terrible Things series is like, no, feel that.
Yes.
Like, feel into that. This culture has so much trouble with that, because they see that immediately as like wallowing, and it's not. It's like the difference between when Resmaa Menakem tries to explain the difference between clean pain and dirty pain.
Yeah,
that's what we're doing. Clean pain versus dirty pain. The pain is happening.
Yes.
So let's make some choices around how we want to process the pain. You want to just blow it through other people's bodies and through your own body and just be knots and knots and knots and knots, or you want to let it hit you like a wave, takes your breath away.
Yes.
Leaves you coughing and crying on the beach, and then
on you go.
You're clear.
Yes.
So,
do you know the work of Derek Jensen? Does that ring a bell?
No.
Not as well known, kind of living under the radar person. Has written books that are just mind-blowing. And one of them is called The Culture of Make-Believe.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And in it is written the story that was lived in his family around what denial does, of what's happening, and how the culture of the country is grounded in that from the beginning, has its origins in not allowing yourself to feel bad about what's happening. That's kind of the point of the culture, from its deepest, darkest origins. And it's Anne Braden said that in different ways. People have said it in different ways, of course. Yes, it's what you're saying. It's what in his book really goes deeply into the specifics of various ways that shows up. And the view of that continues in his other books called Endgame 1 and Endgame 2 kind of manifests more and more around that. And when you're speaking about that, and whenever I hear anyone speak about that, I think a lot about the sexual assault and violence that was experienced by Derek Jensen in his own home. And, how this all, something that you are saying about all of that is that it's all part of the same place of being. And that's what stands in front of children every day in classrooms for 8-9 hours a day, and is perpetuated. I will, and in education, the message is, I will decide what you feel bad about and what you don't. I'm the teacher. If you fuck around in my classroom, yeah, you can feel bad about that.
Right.
If my ancestors oppressed your ancestors, it's time to move on from that.
Right.
We don't feel bad about that.
Right.
So in education, it's particularly dangerous.
Yeah.
Because of the sheer amount of time kids spend in those spaces. You're going to decide what I feel bad about.
Yeah.
So it's okay to feel bad about some things. And that, that's really, it's a level of manipulation.
Yes.
That's, I count that as child abuse.
It severs children from any instinct or any kind of elasticity around their own feelings, knowing even where they are at any given moment on anything.
Exactly. That's why what you've done in these books is I'm so driven to get them into those spaces, to get them into teachers' lives, because I know the only hope is if in pre-service education, when teachers are being trained, because in the Waldorf school training system where they train teachers, you do that. It's called biography work, and you do it the entire 2 years that you're in training doing your work. You're not allowed to continue working with children every day if you haven't examined yourself in all these ways. So your biography work does that naturally. You talk about, when I teach first grade, what happened to me when I was in first grade?
Right.
And you just go through the grades like that. If you're going to be a grades teacher, then you work with these biography counselors with a group, with your teacher group,
That's fascinating, man. That would have been much more useful to me than that childbirth education that we had. Like when I was pregnant, I didn't become a teacher, but when I was pregnant, I'm getting ready to become a parent.
Mm-hmm.
I needed to go back and hit the hot spots.
Yes.
This is a moment this is when your wiring is gonna go just
Woo!
like, oh, 5-alarm fire when your child does this. So let's relax those muscles. They're ready to seize.
Yes.
You need to relax those muscles so you don't punch your kid in the head.
Right.
Let's just talk about what it is.
Yes.
So.
Exactly. Yes. This is an opportunity to do this in a very prescriptive way. Like for me, this is like I'm writing you a prescription. Do these books, you know. This is your prescription. Mm-hmm. And I feel like we've already entered into it by the college. It hit me this week.
What?
That, oh my God, I'm meeting next week with Sherry Williams, who's going to assign an intern to work with me to create this guide.
Yes.
Yeah. And in it will be all of the things that we've made. Yes.
And that we can make to get it in there. Okay, great. Let's make it.
Yeah. So I thought, oh my God, I woke up and it was happening.
Should we make one of the little sessions today while we're on the phone? Just to keep, it's not that kind of thing.
I think that what I think would be really.
Yeah, what would be useful to you?
What I think would be useful is maybe, I do feel really prepared to talk about because it's fresh on my mind from the disassociation conversation that occurred and with the two young therapists who did that work. And I do feel like, this thing is recording. If you want to talk just really initially, I know how to edit the recording. So just this part would be available for You Ruined It. Because I don't think we need to do much with You Ruined It. I think the conversations will be, and the one that I think would be good to start with is this whole idea of her power.
Okay.
Or the child's power. A question I have for you is, I remember when we were talking before where I was referencing the child in Not My Idea as a girl, and you said, well, maybe. Yeah. So I'm still shifting gears around that conversation.
Yeah.
So that's also a conversation.
It is.
I feel like either one of those is a conversation, but for me, I'm really struck by that. The power, because I've not told you this, but I did that as a kid.
Did you dissociate?
Totally. All the time. I actually would walk down the hall in the middle of the night to the bathroom and see myself walking down the hall. Like I felt like a giant marshmallow.
Okay.
I felt huge. Like I was over the whole house, but I could see myself going down the hall to the bathroom.
And were you doing that? Were you doing it on purpose? Was it just happening to you? Did you just lift it out?
It just happened.
Was it because you were scared of the dark and walking to the bathroom?
No.
You just were able to astral project.
The Waldorf people who worked with me tried to understand it. All these people, they said, well, you're just like living between the two places. You're not quite all there. And so that explains a lot about you as an adult.
Interesting.
Yeah. I did want to disclose to you that it's of interest to me because that I'm aware of, it wasn't connected to any need to escape. I had stuff in my childhood that was, often, just based on the time I was alive, there were terrible things. you know, that went on for kids back then. People could beat the shit out of kids right in front of you, you know, like beat them horrifically and not think anything of it. That alone would be a reason to disassociate, right? You know, so part of that is the time I lived in. But it was also just something that happened for me. I mean, I thought there were mermaids under my bed. Like I thought I could go under the bed and swim at night. And, you know, yeah, there were mermaids under there, the whole ocean. You know, I thought my grandmother, who I loved, was living in the cedar chest of all her linens and things that they put in my closet when she died.
Really?
Yes, I thought she was, I thought, oh, they put her near me so I could access her, you know.
I love it.
Gone. Just,
it explains a lot. That's
yes, so exactly. Yeah, my biography teacher,
very rich.
She just said that explains a lot.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
My experience with dissociation is much more as an adult.
Ah.
I mean, I had the stuff that was happening when I was a child. It's different, but like the feeling of like of moving backwards across the room, like shooting away from somebody. That happened in my 20s. In a really intense conversation, and that experience of like running around at the top of the ceiling trying to get out.
Oh gosh.
And that was all in my 20s when really like the childhood stuff started to emerge in dreams and nightmares and flashbacks and things in my teenage years, but it was in my 20s when I was really you know, trying to open up to like, okay, what's trying to come through? Yeah. I want to know what's here to know, because I have my suspicions, and I'm curious, and I'm concerned, you know, and I can't sleep, and I never feel safe. So my experiences of dissociation are much more as a grown-up, and then it happened as recently as you know, a couples counseling session a few months ago, where whatever we were talking about, I started to go out of the room. I mean, I was there, but I felt levitated and like going just away, and needed to come back into my body. So
does it feel helpful when it happens?
It's information. It gives me information. It lets me know how trapped I feel.
Do you feel it as a power like the character in the book does?
No. I don't. In my 20s, I did. Like I would like to get there. I feel much more like the part of the book that says I would rather be a sorceress. I really would. And maybe I will. I'm very interested in, because people have talked to me about this, where that membrane between otherworldly experiences and the supernatural, and it gets very thin. Yes. And you know, people will tell me that they go back and forth, or they get information, and I tried that, but the only thing that ever came through was just nightmarish. So I had to just let it be. I had to just let it be. So yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. What made you, like, where did the impulse to give her that power come from?
It came from those adult experiences.
Okay.
Because I experienced, so my experience of abuse is so young, the original abuse. Recently I I shared in an interview, a written interview.
Yes, I read that.
Published in Pitch, that sexual abuse is rarely ever one thing that happened one time.
Right.
It's more cumulative than that, and it goes from being what happened to what happens.
Yes.
So my conscious experience of childhood was what happens. Mm-hmm. But there's a root, and that is still continues to be locked away from me. Mm-hmm. But the dissociation that I experience as an adult, the body memories, the sensations and things that I experience as an adult, and my ability to make this book, mm-hmm. you know, to in every sense of the word, to have it made, to have it make me, and then have something to offer that's going to be gentle and that's going to be not re-traumatizing to my readers.
Yes.
That is all the proof I've got. Mm-hmm. Does that make sense?
It does. It makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I don't have the thing where Dawn has a summer in her 11th year when her cousin came back from the army. She didn't know what happened, but he had a lot of time for her, gave her a lot of attention, and then initiated a sexual relationship with her and basically was raping her, you know, yes. for however long it lasted. That to me is her story. Mm-hmm. I don't have that story. Mm-hmm. There's resonances with Dawn's story, so much so, and so many things that are just like planted right from my life into hers. Mm-hmm. But my experience is much more that there was the early stuff that I don't have narrative access to. Right. I have sense access to, mm-hmm. and I have the consequences of. And then I have the repetition compulsions, mm-hmm. and traumatic responses and the nausea and the re-trauma, what is it called? I guess it is the repetition compulsion. Yeah. It's that you keep recreating the thing. That's
my understanding of it, but I definitely am not an expert in that field. So
yeah, so I wrestle with more of that, and so you know my play with dolls was very revealing, mm-hmm. or is now to me very revealing. I made a comic in 1994 mm-hmm. when I was trying to be a comic books person and a cartoonist. And I have a comic called Common Barbie Scenarios. And it's like the best thing I ever made. Oh, I'm looking at it right here.
Oh my God.
These are my Common Barbie Scenarios. There's probably a glare on it. You can't see it. But anyway, I have to take it out of the frame and redraw it. But there's all these little scenarios of these horrible things happening to these Barbies. Because that was what I was up to. And that's where I revealed a lot of stuff. So I just, so Dawn is playing with her dolls in that.
Oh my gosh.
Dissociating while she plays with her dolls. And so, and that's like, yeah. And so I just decided though, no, she senses her power. Mm-hmm. She's like, what the hell? I can be playing with my dolls 1 minute and then I'm flying over the creek the next minute. I'm back in that truck. I'm outside of the truck, floating over the truck. I guess I have magical powers. Mm. Like let me work with this. And I just love that about her character. That just seemed right. That seemed like a nice thing for her, especially if she's interested in magic and witchcraft and sorcery.
Yes.
Let's go for it, kid. Get it all. Somebody opened a portal in you and it's not what you were looking for, but now that it's open, what can you do with it?
And I think I feel so grateful and appreciative of your Barbie scenarios.
Yeah, I'll send them to you.
Yeah, I do think that anybody who listens to this because they're connected to the book You Ruined It will also resonate. I think that's for the women in particular of my generation, or mm-hmm. whatever they identify as now, mm-hmm. who were identified as women then, you know, however you want to look at it. That generation of individuals, I guess what I would say is that play with dolls was probably where everything got worked out. It was so much a part of the culture. And you know, so I want to leave that there because I'd like us to do another conversation about that.
Okay.
Something that I'd also like to follow up with then is Dawn went to school every day. What was that like for her? You know, that when we as teachers have Dawn in our classroom, how does that show up? And there are some ways that it does that we know about. But they get labeled and identified as something else, not powers.
Does it look like ADHD? And
yes,
and
even could even be on the autism spectrum or the Asperger's spectrum. There's a million little names for it, and they change all the time.
Yeah, and there's also the label of like she's precociously sexual.
Yes.
You know, so
yes.
I remember feeling that.
Yes.
Like, I have too much sexuality in this third grade classroom. Like, what's happening? Second grade, first grade, kindergarten. Why do I have so much sexuality in this room that is not, it doesn't feel right. I feel out of context. And so probably Dawn, I would think, you know, might display some of that, but, you know, but it depends. She might get through this without it being a trauma.
Yeah, that's the conversation I want to have, is there are some other ways that she could show up at school.
Yeah.
And that's the part two of like, I feel like there's, okay, how would Dawn look at school if she wasn't getting everything she was getting from her family, her and so on, correct?
Right.
And then how would she look given that she has gotten it?
Yeah.
And, you know, the go-to is ADHD, autism, and all that. However, it can also show up as gifted, because the response can be the fawning, pleasing response, or the, you know, driven response of, I knew a young person who was getting every kind of accolade academically you could possibly imagine, but had no fingernails because they were all chewed off all the time. And my thought about that student was always, there has been sexual assault there.
Really?
My gut told me that.
Yeah.
How did I develop that gut? It was because I went deeply into this realm myself, about myself first.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
So this is what, if you're, you know, we're recording this, we hope people are listening to it who are looking at You Ruined It. That's the question for us, is how can we trust our gut if we've not really, you know, taken the deep dive? How do we know it if we don't know it? You know?
Yes.
And I think that for a lot of what I'm hearing a lot from teachers is, well, yes, that happened to me. Well, yes, that happened to me. Well, yes, that happened to me. Like, you're getting that, I'm sure.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Men and women, all the genders.
Exactly. Yeah.
I got raped. I was molested.
Yeah.
Family.
Oh, so I'm going to stop us here because it's asking me to stop us.
Okay. Okay.
But I think that this is a really good, what we just did, I'm going to edit.
Okay.
I think that'll be really good. And then now we've got these next little parts already laid out from just listening to you. When you speak, I can start to see the path unfolding in front of me.
Good.
But that's, you know, I'm not the only person in the room. So you,
okay.
You know.
I love your path.
So of course,
you
know, what other path you're seeing unfold too. And just keep in mind that I thought there were mermaids under my bed. So
yes, I thought there were dinosaurs under the stairs.
Okay, we're good.
I was sure of it.
Yeah, you know, and this might be a fun conversation for the future, because other people may start to. One of the questions I have my students talk to each other about on the first day of class, and in every workshop I do, I start it with this question. Talk to each other about the most incredible thing you believed as a child.
Oh, that's wonderful.
It just puts you right there with each other.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
And so you, it's dinosaurs, me, it's mermaids. It's all there.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Oh, thank you so much.
My pleasure. Thank you too.
Gosh.
I'm happy to get back together.
So before we go, can you see this?
Oh, look at her. That's the first one.
That's Nightclub Barbie.
Look at her.
Guess who left this to me when she died?
Patty?
Yes. She left me her Nightclub Barbie.
Oh my gosh.
I'm just saying.
Okay. Okay.
Watch out for her because she's very mischievous.
Okay. I will.
All right.
I'm watching out for you. I trust her. I trust her. I'm sure her.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes,
All right.
Thank you. Okay. All right. Bye-bye.